Once we've decided what our individual activities are and what costs get assigned to each activity, then we are going to use cost drivers based on a cause and effect relationship, such as the number of labor hours, the number of setups, moves, machine hours, employees, square feet to assign resource costs. And we can use statistical analysis to determine if there is a cost and effect relationship with that. And I'll show you that in Excel. We assign activity costs to our cost objects. So we would use activity consumption cost drivers, such as the number of purchase orders, the number of direct labor hours, number of machine hours, etc., to assign those costs to our products and services. The benefits of switching to an activity-based costing system is that it gives us a lot more information. And the more information we have about what we do, the more ability we have to make better decisions, to control costs, to create information for process improvement. We can find if we have any unused capacity that we could be using in a better way. It gives us more accurate costs. And when we have more accurate product costs, then we have more accurate profitability measures on the profit margins for those products and services. In this example, we're going to look at Haymarket Biotech and their two products, AW and SC. First, we're going to look at using a volume-based overhead allocation, and then we're going to look at that same example using an activity-based costing system. So we have information about the two product lines, AW and SC. We have the amount of production we make 5,000 of AW and 20,000 of SC. The selling price of each unit, the direct materials and labor used, and the direct labor hours used per product line, and the direct labor hours per unit. So in our volume-based costing system, we assign factory overhead based on the number of direct labor hours. We have total budgeted overhead of 2 million direct labor hours. And we have budgeted 100,000 direct labor hours for the year. This gives us a single overhead rate of $20 per direct labor hour. When we apply that $20 per direct labor hour, we assign factory overhead of $500,000 to the AW line, or $100 per unit of production, and we assign $1,500,000 to the SC line, or $75 per unit to the SC line. When we look at how that affects the product profitability, we have our unit selling price and then our unit level manufacturing costs, direct materials and labor per unit, the factory overhead per unit, which gives us the total cost per unit. Thus, we have a gross margin of $100 for the AW product line, and SC has a gross margin of $45 per unit. When we decide to refine our costing system into an activity-based costing, we first look for the different activities. So HBT has identified the following activities as part of their production processing. They have engineering, machine setups, the machine operations, and then the packing of the finished goods. They've decided that the activity consumption cost driver that goes with each one of those items. Then we have to determine how much each product line uses. So if we've decided that engineering hours, number of setups, total machine hours, and number of packing orders are the cost drivers for our activities, then we have to evaluate how much of each of those cost drivers our two product line uses. So we have gathered all of that information. Next, we need to create an activity rate for each activity. So for engineering, we've taken our $2 million in total overhead and broken it down across these 4 activities. For engineering, we have a budgeted cost of $125,000 divided by our 1,250 engineering hours, giving us an activity rate of $100 per engineering hour. We go through that process with all of our activities. Once we have rates, then we're going to apply those rates to our production units. So first we're going to look at the AW line. We have 5,000 units of production. When we make 5,000 units, we have 500 hours of engineering for a total of $50,000, 200 setups for a total of $200,000, 50,000 hours of machine operations, and 5,000 packing orders. This gives us total overhead to the AW product line of $775,000, or a per unit overhead amount of $155. We also apply our factory overhead cost to the SC product line. This product line has 20 units of production. We apply each activity rate and get total overhead to the SC line of $1,225,000 and total overhead per unit of $61.25. As we can see here, then we calculate what is our product profitability analysis using ABC. When we look at the activity-based costing overhead allocation to each product line, we get a gross margin for the AW unit of $45 per unit and a gross margin for SC of $58.75 per unit. So when we compare these two systems, so in the volume-based, we were giving the AW line $100 worth of overhead and the SC line $75 worth of overhead. In the activity-based, we see that the AW line gets $155 of overhead and the SC line gets $61.25 in overhead. This then affects the profit margin of both product lines. So our volume-based costing tends to undercost our low volume products and overcost high volume products. This situation is called product cost cross-subsidization, which means that by making 20,000 products, we originally apply more overhead to the higher volume product line, whether that is a true analysis of its resource usage or not. So we go back to those 5 steps of decision making from previous chapters, and we look at it just in relation to this HBT example. So step 1 is the strategic issues surrounding the problem. This company competes on differentiation. 2, we're going to identify the alternative actions. So this company is trying to decide, should we focus on product AW or product SC? 3, we're going to obtain information and conduct analysis of the alternatives. So the analysis that they decided to do was a cost analysis based on switching from a single overhead rate to an activity-based costing system. When they look at all of that information, they're going to choose and implement their desired alternative. So they're not going to decide to promote their AW product line over their SC product line. They're instead going to focus on the SC line and decide to improve overall profitability from that single product line. And then in 5, we provide ongoing evaluation of the effectiveness of implementation. So then we would do a performance evaluation. Well, did the plan that we were going to decide with in 4, did that work? And if it did work, how well did it work? And if it didn't work, then we're going to go back to step 1 and try something